watching NBC4, the Tri-State News Channel. And now, Linda Bacchetto, Glenn Walker, John Marshall, and Bruce Beck. This is News Channel 4 at 11.
Man versus machine. An Al Gore witness points out alleged flaws in the Chad-punching Votomatic during a marathon court session in Florida, while George W. Bush in Texas declares he will soon be president. Good evening. 25 days after the election, the legal battle for the Florida vote and the White House inches forward.
Today's Field of Combat County Circuit Court in Tallahassee. During a marathon hearing, lawyers for Gore tried to convince the judge that disputed ballots should be recounted by hand. Team Gore's star witness, a voting machine expert who said the hole-punching Chad machines are outdated and easily clogged. Team Bush countered that the witness was full of clever possibilities but short on scientific facts. Meanwhile, the U.S. Supreme Court met behind closed doors but gave no sign of when it will rule on yesterday's arguments. The Republican-controlled Florida state legislature sent out mixed signals about calling a special session to take matters into their own hands. And while the nation waits for a winner, protesters from both sides make their voices heard outside the Connecticut home of Democratic vice presidential candidate Joe Lieberman. Let's get more now on today's Election Watch from Mark Strassman in Tallahassee.
Good evening, everyone. They were lawyering in a courtroom, possibly to pick a president, and will be again first thing in the morning. Gore attorneys and Bush attorneys in a session both sweeping and unprecedented.
Judge Burton is a constitutional...
Judge Charles Burton, Democrat, Palm Beach County, Florida, called as a witness by Bush lawyers in Tallahassee. Republicans eager to convince the judge not to order another partial recount.
It was unanimous.
Burton led Palm Beach's massive hand recount. Democrats griped about his standards, too restrictive. But to Republican lawyers now, he's an example of recounters who did their best, and the judge seemed to agree.
I guess since that day, I've been the one accused of trying to block this recount, which is not the case, but...
Absolutely not. I'd have to salute you as a great American, as a matter of fact.
I don't see why any judge would decide that he wants to substitute his judgment for what they did with those ballots.
These are Dade County's ballots. Gore lawyers allege 9,000 of them have never been counted. Faulty machines and an aborted hand recount.
The testimony that came in was very clear that this was a problem not with the people, but with the machines.
Go ahead and take it up.
Earlier, debate about voting machines built in the 70s. Were they faulty, inadvertently creating dimpled ballots and hanging chads rather than clear votes? No resolution, but from Texas, one confident candidate looked on.
I'm soon to be the president.
The court will stand in recess.
Court reconvenes tomorrow. For the Gore camp, another lost day of no recounts. According to the State House Speaker here, Florida's Republican legislature will meet in special session starting next Wednesday to pick their own slate of electors from Florida, Republicans committed to George Bush. That's the latest here from Tallahassee. I'm Mark Strassman reporting live. Let's go back to you.
All right, thank you, Mark. In New Jersey today, supporters of George W. Bush gathered for a rally outside the county courthouse in Somerville. About 200 protesters showed their support for the Republican presidential candidate. It was one of more than 250 such gatherings held nationwide today by the Bush campaign. And Democrats backing Al Gore's election bid rallied today here in Manhattan. A small group of Gore supporters gathered at Columbus Circle. The rally was sponsored by an online Democratic organization.
With each passing
that showed up, real irregularities.
The vice president appeared in public only once today. He and running mate Joe Lieberman went out to see the movie Men of Honor.
Read my lips! Count them all!
Closer to home, a rally in Times Square echoing the demand for a recount of the Florida vote.
No fuzzy ballots!
The protesters say they're convinced that a recount will prove Gore legitimately won the state of Florida and the presidency of the United States. In his radio address today, President Clinton said, regardless of the outcome of the recount, there is an important lesson to be learned from this year's election.
If ever there was a doubt about the importance of exercising the most fundamental right of citizenship, it sure was answered on Tuesday. No American will ever again be able to seriously say, my vote doesn't count.
Of course, this story is far from over. Stay tuned to News Channel 4 and NBC News for continuing coverage of the Florida recount and the legal challenges. And in the meantime, a prominent New Jersey Democrat, Senator Robert Torricelli, is calling on Vice President Gore to accept defeat. Senator Torricelli will be Gabe Pressman's guest on News Forum tomorrow morning at 7:30.
Tragedy tonight in Austria. As many as 170 people are dead after a cable train caught fire at a ski resort. The train was taking skiers and snowboarders up a mountain in the Austrian Alps when fire broke out and quickly spread, killing all but 19 aboard. Rescue workers say the inferno was so intense, only the metal base of the train remains. Since the train is pulled by cables, there was no engine or power source on board. U.S. officials are looking for 8 missing Americans, 2 of them children of military families from nearby German bases.
6 people were treated for minor injuries after part of a ceiling